Hello everyone. Now we will practice one journal entry problems from this chapter, which is problem number 27, and it is related to solid waste landfill issue. We all learned from this chapter that solid waste landfill is one of the major functions of a government, and it actually requires a huge amount of money, and the closure expenditure and post-closure expenses actually creates a huge amount of liabilities. So usually what governmental entity does, they actually make a payment at the end of a certain period, but they also need to check that what percentage of that landfill actually is filled up, and based on that it actually incurs an expense and creates a liability. And sometimes a governmental entity can reassess the closure cost and the post-closure cost, and the amount of liability may change. Now in this problem we will see two sets of journal entries. One set is for the government-wide financial statements, another set is the fund financial statements. Now remember, this landfill actually can be considered as an enterprise fund if it charges fees from its users, but if it does not charge any fees, then it could be considered under the general fund. Now if I need to do the journal entries for the government-wide financial statements, which actually follows the accrual accounting, it doesn't matter what type of fund is it, whether it's an enterprise fund or a governmental fund. That means whether it is charging fees or it is not charging fees, because the set of the journal entries will be the same regardless of the fund types from the perspective of government-wide financial statements. So only thing that the governmental entity will do when it is doing the government-wide financial statements, it will just classify the activities, because we learned that all of the activities will be presented into two categories. One is governmental and another is business type. That means if a landfill is considered as an enterprise fund, it will just present everything under the business type activities, and if it is considered as a general fund, then it will be the same set of journal entries, but it will be considered under the governmental activities. So now we will see the journal entries, because the first, if you check this problem number 27, the first one is considered as an enterprise fund, and we have to prepare the set of the journal entries for the government-wide financial statements. Second one is also for the government-wide financial statements, but the assumption is that it will be considered as the general fund. So the set of journal entries will be the same. We just need to classify for option 1 as under the business type activities, and for option 2 under the governmental activities. Now how it would look like for the fund financial statements. Again, if you think of the set of the journal entries for the fund financial statements, if it is considered as an enterprise fund, the set of the journal entries will be the same, because enterprise fund actually follows the accrual accounting just like other business entities or government-wide financial statements. But now how about the fund financial statements journal entries, and we are considering this landfill under the general fund? Now we have to be careful, because under the general fund we actually follow the modified accrual methods, and the focus is mostly for current years. We just need to see whether the current year's resources is increased or it is decreased. So depending on the assumption, that means what type of fund is it and for what set of financial statements we are preparing these journal entries, we will prepare the set of the journal entries. So for option A, B, C, it will be followed by the accrual accounting and the journal entries will be the same. But for option D, when we are using the modified accrual method and the focus is only for the current years, then under, if it is considered as the general fund, and for the fund financial statement, we'll prepare a different type of journal entries. It will be plain and simple, the payment of the cash and they will record the expenditures only for the current year focus. It will not record any long-term liabilities. So now let's see the journal entries. Now let's read the problem. City of Hastings created a solid waste landfill and it expects to reach its capacity gradually over the next 20 years, and the landfill were to be closed the current time. Closure cost would be approximately 1.2 million plus an additional, it's the post-closure cost, 700,000. So total at this point on January 1st, 2017, so for this 2017 years, the cost, total closure and post-closure cost is here 1.2 millions plus here the post-closure cost is 700,000, that means 0.7 million, and two together our total cost is 1.9 millions. So now what we need to do, we at the end of December 2017, we will calculate what percentage of that landfill actually is filled up, and that will incur an expense and also will create our liabilities. So it says that of these totals, the city must pay 50,000 on December 31st of the each year. So one is depending on the percentage of this landfill which is filled up, we will incur the expense and create the liabilities, but at the same time we have to check how much the city is actually paying. So the city's policy is to pay $50,000 at the end of each year. So we're gonna record two journal entries. One is for the expense and liabilities and another is for this payment. So this payment basically will reduce a portion of the liabilities. So at the end of 2017, the landfill reached 3% of its capacity. So that means at the end of 2017, 3% is filled up, and that will incur that amount, equal amount of cost and equal amount of liabilities. So if you check it, 3% of 1.9 million, which is $57,000. So at the end of the year, the expenses incur $57,000 and liabilities also will be created 57,000, but remember they are paying 50,000, so it will reduce $50,000 liability at the end, and we have to also show the cash payment. So this is the journal entry. I'll try to show both next to each other that we're gonna do December 31st, 2017. To record the expense and liabilities, which we just calculated, it's 3% fill up, so it is actually 57,000. So we will debit expense, landfill closures, that's kind of leveling the expense, the reason of that expense, and $57,000 debit, and landfill closure liability $57,000 credit. Remember, government-wide financial statement will follow the regular accrual accounting. Now the city is also paying $50,000 at the end of the year. That means they are paying cash, so cash will be credited $50,000, and at the same time we'll remove $50,000 liabilities. So we have to debit landfill closure liability $50,000. So this is the journal entry for December 31st, 2017. Now let's see, it says that at the end of 2018 the landfill reached 9% of the capacity. So now we will actually reassess, we are reassessing the cost, and we found that it reached 9% of its capacity. That means here we have to check the new disclosure cost. Because of this reassessment, the new disclosure cost is 1.4 million rather than 1.2 million. That means they have a new closure cost 1.4 million, and don't forget about this post closure cost 700,000. So that means 1.4 plus 0.7 million, which is 2.1 million. But remember, 3% is already filled up. That means we will also subtract this 57,000 expense and liabilities that we also recorded at the end of 2017, and this is how we will determine 2018's portion of liabilities and the expense that is incurred, and at the same time we will record a journal entry for this $50,000 payment. So let's see the December 31st 2018's journal entry. Now we will do the journal entry at the end of 2018, and what we just saw that here they reassessed the closure cost. Now it is 1.4 million and they have post closure cost. So basically at the end of 2018, if we need to find out the total cost, so here their closure cost is 1.4 million and post closure cost is 700,000. Basically that was the same what it was before, that means 0.7 million. So the total cost turns out 2.1 million. And now we will see that at the end of 2018, here if you see here they figure out that 9%, the landfill actually reached 9% of its capacity. So now if I take 9% of it, so that is actually at the end of 2018's the total liabilities or total amount of expense incurred. So if I take 9% of 2.1 million, it is actually 189,000 $. Now remember, in our first year we actually recorded the expense and the liability, which was $57,000. So based on this assessment, it is actually 189,000, but we actually recorded 57,000 out of it. So we're gonna subtract 57,000. That means the remainder 189 minus 57,000, which is 132,000. This is your end of 2018's expense and liabilities. So we're gonna do the same journal entry. We'll debit expense, landfill closures, and credit liabilities or landfill closure liabilities, which is $132,000. Now we will also show the amount that the entity actually pays at the end of every year, which is 50,000, and that is their policy. The city must pay 50,000 on December 31st of each year. So basically at the end of 2018, they will also make the payment. We also did the same thing here. That means we will reduce our cash and we will also reduce a portion of the liabilities. So now we will show it here. We will reduce our cash. They are making this cash payment, which is $50,000, and $50,000 liability will also be reduced. That means we'll debit landfill closures liability, which is $50,000. So this is basically the set of the journal entries that they will do at the end of 2017 and 2018, and this is for the government-wide financial statement, where actually the accrual accounting is followed, and it doesn't matter what type of fund is it, whether they are charging fees, that means it's an enterprise fund, or they are not charging fees, that means it's a general fund. The state of the journal entry will be the same, only the classification of the activities will be different. So if it is an enterprise fund, it will be under the business type activities. If it is considered as a general fund, it will be under the governmental activities. So basically we can say that for number A and B, it will be the same sets of journal entries, and we just did here government-wide financial statement. Now number C and D are asking for fund financial statement. Remember, for fund financial statement, if we give a label here, for fund financial statement, if it is considered as an enterprise fund, basically they will follow the same accrual accounting, and it will be the same set of journal entries. So I'm not redoing it, just I'm writing a note. If it is an enterprise fund, it will be same set of journal entries, all the numbers will be the same. So if it is considered as an enterprise fund, which is requirement number C for enterprise fund, it will be the same journal entry. The set of journal entries will be the same. Now, how about the general fund? Remember, for general fund, it is actually considered as an expense and the payment of cash only, because general fund follows the modified accrual accounting, and general fund is a governmental fund. So for general fund, we will only show if there is any change in our resources. So that means for the general fund, which is requirement number D, we will actually show that the payment of this $50,000. Again, general fund, which is one of the governmental funds, and it follows the modified accrual accounting, it will only show any type of current resources reduced or increased. So here they're going to show only the cash payment, and it will be considered as an expenditure. So on December 31st 2017, they will show expenditure landfill closures, which is $50,000, and cash payment $50,000. And they're gonna do the same thing on December 31st 2018, expenditure landfill closures $50,000 and cash $50,000. So remember, governmental funds, and when we are talking about the general funds that follows the modified accrual accounting, it does not show any long-term liabilities. Every payment is considered as an expense. So these will be the journal entry sets under 4 situations.